Greetings Design Week. It's exciting, strange, and a little futuristic to be joining you all totally digitally. This is also pre-recorded, which kind of makes it that much weirder, but we are nonetheless thrilled to be able to participate in this year's festivities. My name is Charlotte Jones, and I'm the Education Director at the Museum of Craft and Design. Last year, MCD had a total blast at the Design Hub party, as we celebrated 15 years and got to share hands-on activities and an installation of mementos from past exhibitions with you all. We had hoped to be able to attend again in 2020 with the express goal of giving a sneak peek of our brand new mobile MakeArt vehicle. However, the pandemic, of course, tabled everyone's plans and it paused our project. As the museum adjusted to the new work from home reality, we quickly launched the MCD at Home initiative, bringing thematic, exhibition-inspired, hands-on projects into people's homes. But we also didn't want to forget about the blank canvas of a van that we had just purchased. So we did what everyone's been doing. We pivoted, if only slightly. Whereas the vehicle was originally intended to be support for the pop-up event work we were already doing via our community and library MakeArt programs, we had to accept that our model of bringing people together for hands-on experiences is likely to be forever altered. So, over the last month, MCD has launched a pilot program that partners with already existing essential food distributions and has made Design Challenge MakeArt Kits, which are full of fun supplies, available for free to over 1,000 families. Throughout this video, we will hear from project stakeholders about the mobile MakeArt inspiration, the interior and exterior design process, and how this vehicle can continue to bring essential creativity to our neighbors and community. We'll wrap up the presentation with a mini workshop detailing the Design Challenge MakeArt Kits. And most importantly, we want to engage you in this project. From supplies acquisition to distribution locations and curriculum collaboration, MCD Mobile MakeArt is an ongoing opportunity to give back to the city that we all love. Please, help us make creativity accessible to everyone. Finally, I am watching along with this broadcast, so feel free to ask any questions in the Q&A. I will gladly respond. I'm joined by Museum of Craft and Design co-founder and executive director, Joanne Edwards. Hi, Joanne.
Hi, Charlotte. How are you today?
Doing well, thanks. MCD's MakeArt educational program was launched in 2006 and has increasingly served thousands of multi-generational participants each year, with most of these participants doing so for free via a host of signature programs both inside and outside of the museum walls, even when there were no walls to speak of. So can you please talk a little bit about MCD's history of popping up and how that philosophy has informed this next phase of the MakeArt program in the form of MCD Mobile MakeArt?
In 2010, when the museum was houseless, looking for a permanent home, we decided to do pop-up museums throughout different areas in San Francisco where people lived, worked, and played. It was a way for the museum to stay visible and viable and to create a small exhibition, programming, and a small store. So in the Castro district, in Hayes Valley, in Dogpatch, near SF MoMA, we popped up in all these neighborhoods, and it was a wonderful way to just keep ourselves front and center in the arts scene in San Francisco. So as we progressed and grew in our skin, landed in a permanent home, we also wanted to take our education programs out into the community. There are lots of people who don't have opportunity to go to a museum, whether they're intimidated, they don't have transportation, all kinds of reasons. And so we wanted to take our programs into many communities and schools and libraries and different festivals throughout the city, just to make sure that kids and families not only had an opportunity to make things, but to make things together and to have something to take home.
And so then how did the project eventually come to fruition? How did we end up now with a vehicle?
I had lunch with a former board member, Phil Schlein, who throughout the course of the meal just kept pushing on, what do I want? What do I need? How's the museum? And what came out was, I want a mobile MakeArt van or truck or some way to take this further into neighborhoods and to be a beacon of creativity so that we take creativity to everyone. And much like an ice cream truck when we were kids, people would see this magnificent vehicle drive up and unload all these free opportunities for kids to make things.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you're leveraging the local design community to help realize the project?
Well, we've worked a number of times with Studio Heinrichs on catalogs and various projects for the museum. And I asked him I asked Kit Heinrichs if he would be willing to work with us on doing the exterior skin for the truck so that people would really see us coming and it would make a statement. And he immediately said yes. So there was that aspect. And then the interior, we had talked as a team about engaging a university or a school, some sort of a project where a team of makers would trick out the inside. So we started talking to the California College of the Arts Furniture and Design Program. So we're hoping to work with them going forward once COVID is behind us.
Great. Well, and we'll actually hear a little bit more from both the exterior designer, Kit Heinrichs, and also our potential collaborators at CCA a little bit later too. MakeArt's signature programs include MakeArt Family Day, our after hours Make Party, Design Labs and Design Lab happy hours, free First Tuesday events, community MakeArt, and library MakeArt programs, not to mention all of our special events and additional collaborations. However, with the future of in-person events now so uncertain, the Education Department has had to shift focus in order to create curriculum and develop projects that participants can access from home, most notably via the MCD at-home series of newsletters and online activities. Can you please explain how this shift has been applied to mobile MakeArt and how it continues to fulfill MCD's mission of making creativity accessible to everyone?
I think the operative word is mobile. Mm-hmm. We, in going to libraries and schools and various places throughout the city, would go into an area or into one of those institutions, and what we did was very static. But this way, with mobile MakeArt, we just roll into a neighborhood and we will open our doors and start giving out kits that will have instructions in different languages so that people can just take something home and make whatever they want with what's in the bag. So it just gives us a fluidity that we didn't have before. It gives us an accessibility as a museum, and it creates an opportunity where what we do as an arts institution is not intimidating. It keeps my staff safe, I have to say, because we would be within the confines of the vehicle and simply, handing things out at a distance. So it really is a win-win, and I think we can cover more ground doing this, and we can do both things. We can go into other places, but we can also just go directly into neighborhoods.
Well, I've always said that working at the Museum of Craft and Design is awesome because we have the capacity to dream up projects and then are given the support to be able to prototype and test those projects out. Mobile MakeArt is really just another example of that culture of design thinking. So thank you.
Oh, it's absolutely my pleasure. And you are the perfect person to be in this role because you never say no. Whatever it is, you make it work. And it just turns into magic, and it shows. So it's a mutual love fest.
Yes. Thanks, Joanne.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
I am joined by Kit Heinrichs, Principal and Creative Director of Studio Heinrichs in San Francisco. Hi, Kit.
Hi, how you doing, Charlotte? Great, thank you. Okay, you're a friend of and previous collaborator with the museum, and now you have just completed the exterior skin design for our new mobile MakeArt vehicle. Can you talk a little bit about how you came to be involved with the project and maybe a bit about what your design process looks like for something like this?
Sure. As almost all projects begin, you have someone call and ask you to be involved. And Joanne gave me a call, as she always does, and says, can you help me with this? So as a consequence, anything I can do to help the museum, if I can do it, I will do it. She said that you were going to take your the idea on the road of the specific things you have at the museum, but to take it outside of the museum and open the walls up of the museum. Great idea. And I know that when I was a kid, and they used to have library trucks that went around the city and would bring books to kids who couldn't get to a library, whatever, I figure this is somewhat the same thing. You're bringing that kind of education to people anywhere in the city. And so I loved that idea and thought anything I can do to help that, I would be happy to do. When we started to look at how we would do the skin on this, there were a lot of discussions. We had done a number of directions, many times including the tools you'd use and so on. Mm-hmm. My concern was that the museum is something more than just a set of tools in making art. And I thought if we could just do something that enlivens the existing logo, which I think is very strong, by changing the color of it and making it something that was accessible to everyone, would allow the van to travel anywhere around the city and be something that they'd be recognized and also had access for everyone who would come and join it. And because the neighborhood's changed that it goes to, I think the individual communications that you have outside the van when you're setting up your tables and so on, I thought that was the appropriate way to do it.
Excellent. Well, and you mentioned there exactly what our mission is, which is to make creativity accessible for everyone. And it has been, I think that you're right, that this design is perfect for that. So you spoke a little bit about this. The exterior of the vehicle really is beginning to tell the story of what the Mobile MakeArt initiative is all about. And for many people, it will be their first introduction to the museum itself. Can you talk a little bit about how you were working through, I guess, the various designs in order to get to this wonderful, colorful design that we are debuting today?
Sure. As every project that you go in, you want to first find out a certain amount of information about who's the audience, who's going to be seeing this, how are they going to respond to it, what do you want them to get from it when they see it. And so as we began working at different things in there, I kept thinking the more we kind of define specifically what the vehicle has for you is limiting to what the idea itself could be. I think the idea that the expression of good ideas is something that's going to come out of what you make, and we don't need to define that on the outside of the van. So we very much thought the more open we can make that van, and let the individual people who look at it and respond to it, that's their van, it's their making of it, and it was important that it be for everyone.
Fantastic, thank you. Well, and I want to sort of reiterate exactly what that mission is too. I keep saying that it's making creativity accessible for everyone, which it is doing, but it's actually making creativity accessible to everyone. And the van is definitely a physical manifestation of that idea. And as an artist and a designer yourself, what can you say about the MCD Mobile MakeArt meaning for the community, for the artistic community, for just the San Francisco neighborhoods? What sort of value do you see this being able to bring?
One of the things, and it's not only limited to the museum and what the van is going to bring to the public, but a lot of people, especially children, don't have the opportunity, or people in their life who are involved in the arts, they don't have access to them every day. And the idea that you can bring that opportunity to kids to kind of find out what's going on is magical, and that will actually change their lives as it goes forward. Just that little opportunity to do things and people care about it, know it's there, knowing there is an opportunity for them to do things that may someday hang in a museum or be influence in the work that they do. That's all a very positive thing, and the earlier we can get that started, I think the more effective you can be.
Absolutely. I can only agree with that. Well, thank you very much. We really appreciate your contribution to this project, to previous projects, and especially appreciate that you are helping us tell this story, this next chapter of the Museum of Craft and Design story. So thank you.
It's great to see the museum extending the walls of the museum beyond its particular physical place. I'm so pleased to be part of it and hope it will be as effective as you all plan to do. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I'm joined now by Russell Baldwin, Chair of the Furniture Department at California College of the Arts. Hi, Russell.
Hi, how are you?
Great, thanks. MCD and CCA have long had a history of working together, and that's across multiple departments and in many different ways. Just before the pandemic hit, our organizations were in conversation about being able to embark on this interior vehicle design project for fall 2020. All of that timeline, of course, is totally up in the air now, and even the ultimate functionality of the vehicle is somewhat in question. Before all of that happened, though, can you describe how you came to learn of the project and what your initial thoughts were about it?
Sure. I think it was Joanne reached out first, and she started talking about this, this mobile art unit. And it was interesting because our program years ago, we coupled with the interaction design department at CCA, and we helped prototype and develop a mobile art unit for the Oakland Museum of California. And that was an awesome project, and we had a lot of fun. So when Joanne said, you know, just talking about buying this van, I was like, oh my God, yeah, let's do it. But then, you know, going into the process, just starting to think about like, what can you do with it? You know, who's your audience and where do you take it and all those things? And I'm really intrigued by that whole kind of public interface because, you know, you always want any kind of institution, whether it's California College of the Arts or it's the Museum of Craft and Design, you want to get outside the walls. And so when you do go outside the walls, you know, it's a challenge, and it's what you bring with you and who you present it to and how it is received are all like the variables that you have to deal with. And so it's a good thing. I mean, it's an exciting thing.
Absolutely. And I love the uniqueness and creativity behind the vehicle that Oakland Museum of California has. It's really cool. So you've done that one, and then we hopefully will be able to do this one. Are real world projects like this common to the CCA curriculum?
Yeah, well, I'm careful these days on how, when I raise my hand, and I raise my hand about every 3 years for a big project, because it takes 2 to get them lined up, and then it takes about a year to execute them, and then I'm like, whoo, I gotta take a break for a second. But yeah, we work with public partnerships all the time, and especially right now, we've been in, you know, thinking just prior to the breakdown of our race relationships in our United States, the COVID virus was, you know, super put a squeeze on us. Like, how do we interact with the public and everything? And now, you know, watching the turmoil and everything, I think it's now more than ever looking for, we've been just brainstorming among the design division, we need partnerships that are long-lasting partnerships with outsiders that will help to heal the wounds that we are all very aware of. And so that's what we're working on now. You know, of course, the school is, you know, we're making murals and posters, and we got people out demonstrating and all those things. But I really want to steer towards like very long-term relationships. And so the relationship with the Museum of Craft and Design, relationships with you know, food pantries and homeless shelters, and you know, at-risk youth, and all those things. Those are the things I want to focus on now.
Fantastic. Well, and those are exactly the types of places that we want to be able to bring this vehicle. So we're excited to continue the conversation too with those partners, to be able to learn just exactly what it is that they want from us. Mm-hmm. So which class would you say would likely be working on the interior vehicle design?
Well, we, you know, prior to all the events of the last 6 months, we were looking at our, we have a production, well, we have two of them. It's a production 1, production 2. And what that means is that those students, instead of making one-of-a-kind, limited, you know, things, that they are working on a more product-based. And so it's a lot to do with marketing and audience and, you know, like all the budgetary stuff, what you can farm out on all these things. And so we thought that would be a good fit for something like this. You guys are a commercial entity, but you're interfacing with the same people we want to interface with. And so it just seems like that's where we want to go.
Pandemic and events notwithstanding, what would you say the design process normally would look like for this kind of a project?
Well, we had like a kind of a little spitballing meeting a while back about the van, and what I was struck with was, or what my main advice at that point, and this was a long time ago, was like, don't quite outfit the van permanently yet. Like, just get the van as a shell and take it out, like try it, you know, and just like bring what you need to whatever event you're going to, and just don't make any decisions yet. Like, just practice, you know, because I think what it's going to end up with before you can decide, like, we need a roll of paper that hangs here and we're going to put all the paint here. You kind of have to just, you know, those are all good guesses and likely candidates, but maybe not, you know, maybe you end up, and especially with the way things have changed, maybe it's more about, you know, toolbox storage, so you can hand out all the toolboxes, you know, and everybody can go their separate ways. And so I think remaining flexible, not committing to the idea. It's almost like when you're, you know, it's the same with my students. I'm teaching a beginning class with 15 students, and they theoretically it's a table. They got to design a table, but I don't like to say even table yet, because everybody's got 4 legs and an apron and a, you know, little overhang on the thing when you say table. And so we talk about support, and we talk about, you know, scaffolding, and we talk about cantilever, and we talk about all this stuff. And then we enter it like that in a way, instead of saying this is an art van that's going to go out and do this. You know, you're more like, what is it that we want to do? I want to support my breakfast every morning. So what do I need to support breakfast? You know, and it could be the plate and the coffee and the spoon, and, you know, you could have a whole landscape about that. And so I think that's, you know, that's just good design practice. That's good ideation, you know, and you just come up, like, you'll never be as free as you are with the van empty. You know, once you fill the van up, you're committed. That's the way it's going to work, you know? And so, like, just taking a breath and being like, it's okay. We don't need to fill the van up yet, you know, and just going through it and just seeing, just letting the world suggest things instead of trying to force it all.
Yeah, you're right. Well, and especially now. So then, can you imagine being able to move forward on the project given the new and ever-changing?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I would like to, I think those prototyping moments of those first, you know, the first 5 events, the first 10 events should be looked at as science. You know, that's the experiment. And so I would love to see it in action. I'd love to go observe and work with people, get feedback from them, get feedback from the staff that's using it. And then, you know, like, just do that a few times and see what the commonalities are. Go to a bunch of different audiences. You know, go to a privileged audience, go to a non-privileged audience, go to, you know, an audience that speaks a different language, go to an audience that, you know, a different age range, you know, from an old folks home to a, you know, to a preschool. And just looking at that, all those different relationships can really bring out surprises. You know, I think that in design, there's, you know, a lot of times if you're going to design a bicycle or some kind of product, look at the, a lot of people look at just at the market, like, okay, who buys bicycles? And, there's an age range and everything. But it's also really interesting to look at the extremes, like what's the youngest person that can ride a bike and what's their needs, and what's the oldest person that can ride a bike and what's their needs. What about people without legs? What about people with this? What about people with that? And so looking at those extreme people, you can sometimes bring that back to the middle and have like a much more broad range and much more long-lasting effect.
I'm writing that down, looking at the extremes. So you've touched on this a bit, but what kind of value does a collaborative project like this, like designing mobile MakeArt, bring to the students? And not only through that design process, but also after realization and like seeing the product out in the community?
Well, I mean, from a curricular standpoint, of course, going through any large public partnership is insanely valuable to these kids, because they, increasingly we watch our graduates in the furniture department, they go out and they do all kinds of stuff way beyond furniture. They do furniture and they do so much more. And so I think that they, seeing the kind of project management, the prototyping, we've taught them to prototype in ways, from drawing, ideation, models, prototypes, back and forth, and then before you actually present your final thing. I think to see it in real life with the museum doing it and being part of that team and stuff, it's just like, it just reinforces all that the training that we've given them. And that, the partnerships that they develop with you guys and with the public that they're going to participate in has the potential to turn the arc of their career. They might, those connections are so important. And it's funny because oftentimes I find myself trying to explain to students, and it's the age of the students that we deal with most, they're late teens, early 20s, and to explain to them, like, it's the network, it's the network on how you get places, and so like I tell, never burn a bridge, always, always be kind and generous, and you just don't know where it's going to lead. And that's, you talk to anybody in their later stage career and they're like, yeah, of course, that's how you get things done. But it's hard, as a lot of the kids that we work with, they haven't learned that yet, and they think that it's just the power of their ideas that's going to make them famous. And I'm like, that has a lot to do with it, but it's also, it's the power of it's your charisma. It's your ability to go out and interface with people.
Well, I'm here to say I learned of the Museum of Craft and Design during a grad school project.
Nice.
And here we are.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and for us, it's also just really important to be able to connect with the students from the museum standpoint, being able to tap into those fresh ideas and emerging concepts and those world-changing ideas. You're right, you need to have those connections to be able to amplify those out into the network. So being able to see our vision also through the lens of students and community experiences is just absolutely invaluable. So
we talk a lot about, just in general, in the circles that I travel in, about diversity and all these ideas that we are trying to confront as an institution and trying to support, a pluralist society. But when you start talking to the students, you're like, oh my God, I'm really doing it. Like CCA is one of the most, for a college of its size, it's I think the second most diverse in the United States. And it's just like, crazy range of people that come to us. And so it was funny when we shut down, I was teaching these classes remotely. And it was a train wreck of chaos, they were just trying to make it through the end. And so I was still having, classes at the class time. And I was talking to people, one student in Hong Kong, and then I had a student in Qatar and a student in Turkey. And it's all different times of the night, so somebody's getting up at like 3 o'clock in the morning to talk to me. And then in the meantime, we're just like around, all parts of the United States, all over the place. And I just realized, like, it was so interesting to talk to. I have a student from Belarus, and I was like, what's going on in Belarus right now? Because I don't know what's going on in Belarus and Turkey. And then the kid that went back to Qatar, it took him 5 weeks to get back. Like he left San Francisco and wasn't home for 5 weeks because of all the quarantines he had to do on the way past. So it was just having that. I feel so kind of honored and just to have a way to communicate with those guys, because it's just like, it's unbelievable, you know, like the extent of what we're going through.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for making the time to come here and do this. We certainly hope to be able to continue to work with CCA in whatever capacity is realistic or unrealistic. Shoot for the stars. So
I mean, if I have anything to do with it, we'll be working together for as long as we both exist, because it's so valuable. We're both around the same tree, and it's like, let's do it.
Great. Well, thanks for helping be a part of telling this part of Mobile MakeArt story.
Sure.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. I'm joined now by Programs Director Allegra Madsen of the Bayview Opera House. Hi, Allegra.
Hello.
So Bayview Opera House has fulfilled a vital cultural space for many years, serving multi-generational groups of visitors and participants through events, services, and programs. How have you seen the needs of the Bayview community change or be amplified post-COVID-19?
Well, I mean, it's the needs immediately, of course, changed dramatically, and we kind of had to hit the ground really fast, running, trying to figure out where we, as an institution, that's one of our main functions is gathering people and creating community, and like, how do we go about addressing community, the ideas of community when we can't be together. One of the interesting things I think about the Opera House and being a community arts organization is that we can operate at the intersection of community expression and community service. So immediately when COVID hit and we canceled our programs and shifted everything around, we set up a partnership with the Marin Food Bank to operate a food pantry outside with everybody, able to get produce and foodstuffs at a safe distance and make sure that our community was fed. We also worked with Now Hunters Point at another location in Bayview to set up another food pantry and that concentrates on fresh produce and getting people food. While we did that, we also noticed that we also knew that our artists weren't being paid because what work was there? There's no galleries, there's no museums, there's no big productions. We also noticed that our Bayview kids were not in school. So we brought our artists together and figured out ways to produce programming and in a virtual environment so that targeted at our Bayview youth.
Great. And we've been really pleased to be able to be a part of the food distribution happening at Now Hunters Point. We are excited to see if that's going to be extended and how we can help, but also are very interested in how other members of our network and community members can help with either that project or anything else that you have happening on the horizon. Do you have any plans for embarking on any new initiatives that maybe you could use a little bit of extra support for?
I mean, we can always use some support. These are just crazy times, and everybody, I think we're kind of settling into a rhythm of shelter in place, like as a people, but it very much feels like we're running all around. The Now Hunters Point project has been great. It depends on a lot of various organizations and people coming together with a drive to make sure that the Bayview community is has foodstuffs, but also art supplies, which was a really great addition to the food pantry out there, because there are kids at home and they don't have anything to do. So like it has been really great to be able to kind of put link those two needs. Right now, most of our programming is focused on how do we support artists, how do we keep artists getting money, for life, and how do we support our Bayview youth. So we are continuing a lot of our online initiatives, and we are working in the virtual space like everyone else and figuring that out. And most importantly, we want to figure out ways that we can help artists go between the virtual and the live environment, because I have a feeling that as we open up, there may be potentials where we have to go back inside and we might have to come back outside, and we have to be able to seamlessly move through both so that we don't have that like crazy moment.
Right, yeah, just sort of figuring out what the new standards are for being able to do programming with people from afar. I feel you. So I know that you're super busy. Juneteenth preparations are happening right now. What's Bayview Opera House planning for this year?
I am in the midst of it. We are doing a virtual Juneteenth online because this particular moment in time and what's going on in our communities across the country, we felt that we could not let this celebration of freedom go by unmarked. So we are having a virtual Juneteenth event tomorrow at 2:00, and we asked our community to submit videos to us about what freedom means in this context when you're supposed to be at home, when you have to wear a mask outside, when there are protests, and so what is freedom right now? What is the most important freedoms for you right now? And so we've created a video intergenerational conversation about what freedom means right now, and we'll be sending it out tomorrow at 2:00, and then we'll also push out the recording of it via all the social networking channels.
Great. Well, this will be screening Sunday at SF Design Week. So we'll remind everybody then to go check out your social media, check out Bayview Opera House social media, sign up for the newsletter too, and definitely view those videos. Thank you so much for being just a continued partner for us.
Thank you.
We miss the neighborhood. It's so sad to not be able to be back there on 3rd Street in Dogpatch and in Bayview. So we can't wait until we're able to see you again in person.
Us too. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks, Allegra. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.
Hello, I'm Rachel Ships, Education Coordinator at MCD, and I'm going to explore the design challenge process hands-on. MCD design challenges can take many forms and have long been a favorite project at the museum, both inside and outside of its walls, from maker fair to make, and for people of ranging interests, ages, and abilities. This project is especially flexible in that similar principles can be applied to create unique challenges. These can invite people to look at materials in new ways and appreciate their properties, and reinforce the idea that creativity is for everyone in many different places. Furthermore, in a time when people may not be able to buy craft or design supplies, design challenges prioritize creative reuse and repurpose materials that people will likely have already around their home, readily available. So today I'll introduce our exploratory design challenge prompts that we have piloted for our mobile MakeArt MCD at Home kits. Each round of kits has contained different materials, but these prompts apply to many different assortments, including materials you would find around your own home. So I'll give you the general categories that we use. These can be kind of done as a scavenger hunt around the house. So fabric, that might be cotton balls, that might be pom-poms, felt, as in this case, or any other small fabric scraps you might have. And again, regular cotton balls are totally fine. This might be metal. So you may have small metal wires around the house. You might have pipe cleaners, which are wonderful for this process. We do have some coated wire we often use. And we have actually, from the hardware store in the past, some metal tubes. That brings me to the next category, tubes of one kind or another. With that, we're more thinking about paper or plastic straws. It's just really nice to have something that you can work with as a vehicle for other things to pass through it. Our next category is connectors. You will want to have, whether that's wires such as this or pipe cleaners, something to really adhere these together. Twisty ties from the kitchen will actually work really well for this. And next category is wood. So in this case, we have some balsa wood, but you will likely find a lot of other wood materials around the home. We also have corks. And you might even, as you're going through this process, look outside. So you may find sticks in the backyard that would actually work really well for some sculptural forms. Got some more wood from around the house here. A next category is ties. So in general, this again will be something that's really helpful to adhere multiple materials together. So you may have string, you might have yarn, embroidery floss, or twine. Those will all work really well to continue to kind of tie your items together. There's rubber. That could be hair ties. It can also be rubber bands, as in this case. Something again that will kind of help cohere your project. Our next category is plastic. So this is a great way to really bring creative reuse into the project. You likely have a lot of plastic materials around your home that you can use. In some cases, this might be plastic eggs, which are another thing that's pretty great to bring other objects together. Recycled caps of bottles that are clean, or any number of other kinds of things. In this case, we have some sushi grass too. Clean, of course. The next category we actually have is cardboard. So I have a larger piece of cardboard here, which of course you can take from any box, but you'll probably also have things like paper towel rolls around the house that you can use as well. Finally, you will probably want to use tape in a decorative way. If you have any tape that is colored or patterned, washi tape is great for this. So in addition to its kind of adhesive function, you can also use the tape to be very decorative too. In addition to all your materials, you will also want a few key tools. So you will want some scissors. Those will come in handy. So we're really thinking through modifying these to repurpose or use them in new ways. Glue is great. If you do have a hot glue gun, in this case we also have colorful hot glue, it's a great tool. A lot of these materials, you'll notice we're using wood and metal, will adhere much more readily if you have the hot glue with you. You will also probably want a paper and a pencil for any sketching or planning that you want to do. So once you've gathered your materials, you might already have them arranged more or less by material, as we see here. A few more I'll pull out. If not, you could arrange them that way. Just really start off looking at them as a group. And next, you'll begin with the first design challenge prompt, which is to arrange by color. You don't necessarily have to use each and every object as you're doing this, but try to find some new ways that they can all fit together as a group. That arrangement is really also an assemblage. So as you start playing with things by color, combining various materials to do so, you can really kind of play with it from up above and make something that looks good together as a group. Once you've done that, draw or photograph it, just to reflect a little bit more on the entire assemblage, all the materials you have in front of you. It's a nice meditative way of re-envisioning the materials you're working with. So again, that was color, the first one. You've memorialized it in some way. Next, you would move along to arranging it by size, your group of materials. So there's a couple different interesting takes on this. You can arrange things by size that have a similar shape or property. Perhaps you're judging by length, as with these. Or any other creative way you might combine these. You'll probably see some new relationships as you do this. Again, so photograph or draw these if you like. Then next, our next prompt is to explore the contrast of different textures. So this will just naturally occur as a way of a deeper dive into exploring these materials. Can you use just what you have before you to connect these pieces together? For this step, avoid connecting anything permanently. You're kind of going to be sketching it in 3D instead. So in some cases, you might be able to sort of fold things together, combine them in this way. You're really just discovering new relationships. This can be very, very simple. You're experimenting here. So thinking through how these objects all fit together and what they could become. Continue experimenting. This can be, again, this is basically 3D sketching. So you can also just be exploring relationships really broadly. You might start by using some of your connectors to tie a few pieces together. And then once you've done that, think about how you might keep fitting more and more on there until you can bind together the whole group. As you're experimenting and after you've done as much as you can do to see about connecting everything you have in front of you, think about what this is leading you towards. So would this become something to wear? Would it become a sculpture, some kind of fantastical invention, something that's replicating known objects like a toy car or house or a mobile, again, something more abstract. And then again, as this is kind of taking shape, how could all these things go together to make the desired object? You might want to take some time apart at this point to sketch or reposition these as needed. You know what direction you're going in, at least for this design challenge. It's time to solidify what you've designed. You can bring out your hot glue at this point, tie anything together that needs to be tied more permanently, and that would help your design stay put. Once you've tied and glued everything into something that's a bit more permanent, in this case, this is a bit of wearable sculpture. You might be ready to wear it, try it out, get inspiration to make something new or go in a new direction. So if you do want to pursue design challenges further, we advise looking at D-School, Stanford's Institute of Design, and their design thinking process, which we'll link to. Their toolkit is an excellent resource for considering the purpose and audience for your design and going through the steps of empathizing, defining, ideating, prototyping, and testing. MCD also has our own design challenge PDF that's inspired by these design thinking principles. You can find that at sfmcd.org/MCD at home. Thank you. Enjoy your craft and design explorations.
Thanks, Rachel. And thank you also to all of the partners and stakeholders who contributed to this project. We are very much in the early stages of mobile MakeArt, and I hope that all of you have been inspired to think about ways in which you or your organization can help. Soon, we will have mobile MakeArt up and running on all 4 wheels, making MCD accessible to all kinds of audiences and events. Please let us know if you have contacts at any local community centers, senior living homes, schools, or food banks where MakeArt kits would be welcome. Obviously, supplies and materials for the kits are a major cost. Currently, we are filling the kits with our own inventory of supplies that are still in storage back at the museum. After 1,000 kits, however, our stock is definitely beginning to dwindle. And the fun thing about design challenges is that they can really be anything at all, as long as it's interesting. So if you know someone with a storage unit full of overstocked jewelry boxes or too many sponges or something, just let us know. Something that has been made clear through past community MakeArt programs is the need to be mindful about the many families who simply don't have the basics like scissors, tape, and glue sticks. So providing people with staple art tools is definitely a goal of the project as well. Finally, the MakeArt kits are customizable to any theme, technique, material, or concept. So if there's a part of your creative process that you would be interested in sharing, shoot me an email to pitch or even just to brainstorm. The input of our creative community will be essential to making mobile MakeArt the most valuable project it can be. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of design week, and hopefully we'll see you out and about sooner rather than later.